Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Law Accents and teaching of law policies and regulations of Oluwasegun. And today we'll be talking about Nigeria's visa policy, how to gain entry into Nigeria's largest economy, into Africa's largest economy rather. So as a point of call, we'll generally be talking about the new visa policy and how to get entry into Nigeria legally for both Nigerians and non-Nigerians. So, before we get into that, we'll do a brief run through. For every country, to get into every country, you will need a visa. Aside from your passport usually just connotes nationality. It puts you under an umbrella. It gives you a sense of belonging to a particular country, and having your international passport alone does not guarantee you getting entry into another country, except under some very, very stringent conditions, which we'll be looking at today too. So, visas are the main passage document or requirement that you need to get into a country. So, on the 4th day of January 2020, the President Muhammad Buhari signed in the new Nigerian visa policy 2020. In his preface, he mentioned that the visa policy is supposed to bring in innovation, specialized skills, and help with general national development. That's to help Nigeria's economy grow to a very, very large extent. So the Nigerian visa policy basically was created or was enacted to revise the 2012 visa policy, which was a good one too. But this time around, the new visa policy, it brings in some changes. It introduces new ways to apply. It creates 3 classes of visas, which are then subdivided into 79 others. And these various visas cover for different scenarios, different purposes, and for different kinds of people that will be coming into Nigeria. So before we go into the Nigerian visa policy, what exactly is a visa? A visa is a document, usually temporary document, that gives a person from another nationality or from another country the right to legally enter, remain in, and even to leave the country. So by using legally enter, you can get into a country without a visa and to still be legal. But for where visas are needed and you actually do not get them, those are the scenarios that will be rendered illegal. So you need a visa to legally enter into a country. Even to live in that country, you need a visa. And then to remain in that country, you need a visa. So that's why most times you see that people travel abroad and they start to, they create evasive ways to evade the law enforcement agents so that they can remain in the country. So those are kind of the things that we're talking about. So that's generally what a visa is. So the visa policy, like I mentioned before, it was created to amend the 2012 visa policy. So before we delve into the classes of visas and how to apply for them, the first question that usually comes to mind is, okay, we know what visas are, but who exactly issues these visas? How do I go about getting a visa? The primary body that is responsible for regulating everything regarding the issuance and validity of visas is the Nigerian Immigration Service. The Immigration Service has some key functions, some primary roles that they play, some of which are to control the passage coming into and going out of Nigerian boundaries and territory, issuance of visa and other travel documents, border surveillance, issuance of residence permits, and the issuance of other travel documents, like the international passport. Now, if you want to process your international passport, the Nigerian Immigration Service is responsible for that. So, from there, we're going to go into the Nigerian Visa Policy 2020 now. So, the visa policy, it brings some major changes and improvements. The first one, which is very, very glaring, is that it provides for 3 classes of visas. These classes of visas are the short visit visas, temporary residence visas, and permanent residence visas. These 3 classes are then subdivided into other subsegments or sub-visas, which we shall be talking about. Then the 79 other types of visas under the 3 classes, they try to make provisions for every possible scenario that could make a person want to come into Nigeria. So it's so broad and vast and so deep that there is no particular reason why you'll be coming into Nigeria that the Nigerian visa policy does not cater for. So aside from these classes, it provides for new visa application processes. The one that's worthy of note is the e-visa. This is it's like an online way of applying for visas. We'll talk more about it as the presentation goes on. So aside from that, it provides for new visa application centers and the visa channels. That is how, or the right places where you can get your visas from. Then there's the introduction of e-visas, which I mentioned earlier. Then visa on arrival for tourists and the visa classes for the Nigerians abroad. Those are Nigerians with dual citizenship and those that have actually revoked their citizenship. So the Nigerian visa policy does not only provide for Nigerians that are within Nigeria, it provides for Nigerians that are in diaspora too. That's for Nigerians that are abroad or that are not residents in the country. So if you have dual citizenship, the visa policy does cater for you in the event that you want to come into Nigeria, or if you had earlier revoked your Nigerian citizenship. So the channels for the types of visas that we'll be looking about. The first one is the visa on arrival. Like the name implies, visa on arrival. Normally, the process for getting a visa is that you apply before you travel, so that you are going to take your visa with you with your travel documents and issue it or provide it to them at the point of entry or port of entry of the country where it is stamped, and then they allow you entry. But the visa on arrival actually allows you to apply after you have gotten to Nigeria. So you can travel from your country with the intention to come and apply when you get to the airport. So a visa on arrival basically is that type of visa that you can get after you travel from your country and you're already at the destination where you're going to. So the types of visas that are allowed, or that the visa policy allows for you to apply for on arrival, are the tourism visa. Then holders of passports from African Union countries, African Union member countries. So not all African countries are actually under the African Union. There are 55 members presently, if I am right. There are 55 member countries for the African Union now. So if you are from one of those countries, or you have a passport from one of those countries, you can actually apply for a visa upon arrival into Nigeria. Then there is the emergency and relief work visa. This covers for scenarios where probably there is some uprising or some form of it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. There is an occasion that requires you coming into the country like immediately, like when the Red Cross officials are taking to other countries now for them to give aid. You can't tell them to wait for them to start processing visas and waiting for it to get approved. So those kind of visas are applied for upon arrival. Then there's the business frequently traveled executives visa. This is for people that usually go in and out of Nigeria like a lot. So those kind of people can actually apply for visa on arrival when they get to Nigeria. Then returning holders of other Nigerian passports who are Nigerian by birth. So if you are Nigerian by birth or by descent because your parents are Nigerian and you have dual citizenship or you have citizenship of another country, you can actually come into Nigeria and then apply for your visa upon arrival. So there are some things that should, however, be noted for this type of visa, is that it usually needs to be applied for at the point of entry. So the requirements are a valid passport that will be valid for the next 6 months. So what it's saying is that the way we're in March now. So there's March, April, May, June, July, August. So the expiry date for your international passport must not be any date before the ending of August. September rather. So you need to have a passport that is valid for the next 6 months. Then you need to have a valid return ticket. The purpose for the valid return ticket is to ensure that you do not have any plans of residing in Nigeria permanently, and that although you are coming in to apply for a visa upon arrival, there is a stipulated or fixed date for you to actually return back to your country. So how do you apply for these visas? Upon traveling The first thing you do at the point of entry is to locate the desk that is labeled visa on arrival. So when you get there, you pay for the necessary fees. After you pay for the necessary fees, you undergo a biometric examination. That means they take your thumb print and take passport size pictures of you for record purposes to ensure that you have a database with the Nigerian Immigration Service. And then after you complete this process, the visa is then issued to you. So that's about the visa on arrival. So let's go to the e-visas. E-visa is one of the major highlights of the Nigerian Visa Policy 2020. The e-visa is an electronic visa that you can apply for online. Upon applying online, a document is issued to you online, so it is sent to your mail. That is going to act as your visa. That is the travel authorization letter or the electronic travel authorization letter. So this allows you to take that document with you instead of a visa and travel with it. So the types of visas that are usually allowed for e-visa application are short visit visas. Some of them are the transit visa, business visa, the tourism visa, journalist visa. Those are the few I can mention for now because of time constraints. There's a whole lot of them that are provided for under the Nigerian Visa Policy 2020. So what are the requirements for you to apply for an e-visa? The passport must be valid for 6 months and you must have at least 2 blank pages on the passport, on your international passport. That is, the reason behind that for me will be that so that you can actually record coming in on one page and then going back on the other, so that it guarantees your exit after you get into the country. So aside from that, a valid return ticket, like the same thing for visa on arrival. Then aside from a valid return ticket, then you need evidence of your hotel reservation or the host, that person that is hosting you in Nigeria. So in the event that you have not booked for your hotel, there must be somebody on ground that is undertaking to actually cater for you, like receive you and take care of you during the period which you'll be staying. And then evidence of sufficient funds. The visa policy, however, does not provide for what exactly sufficient funds are. It doesn't give a range within what would be sufficient funds for you to come into Nigeria. So how do you apply? You go onto the NIS website, that's Nigerian Immigration Service. You apply there, you attach your required documents. These documents are vetted. Then you make the necessary payments. After you make the necessary payments, an e-receipt is sent to your mail, and there's one available for you immediately to print out. So after you print it and one is sent to your mail, you are going to bring a copy of that receipt when you are coming into the country. It should be noted, however, that successful submission does not guarantee approval. So even if after payment they've sent you your e-receipt and that your submission was successful, you can still be denied the e-visa or the electronic travel authorization letter, whichever the case may be. Then in the event that your submitted application is successful, then they send you an electronic travel authorization letter. That is what is known as the e-visa, or that is what actually counts as the e-visa. Then you take that document and then you can travel to Nigeria with it. Then the next one that we're going to be looking, next channel that we're going to be looking at is visa at the visa embassy. This is the conventional way for you to apply for a visa. It's the basic way. So you go to a Nigerian embassy, maybe consular or high commission in other countries, but you go to a Nigerian embassy, you submit an application. After the application, you submit your required documents, make necessary payments, you attend the interview. There's usually a visa interview, usually to know the reason why you're going to the country and what exactly you plan to do. And then after that, if you are successful, you get your visa. This is the traditional way, this is the conventional way to apply for visas. And it should be noted that the visas that are eligible for e-visas, short-term visas, or visa on arrival can actually be applied for at the embassy too. So the embassy does not cater for some type of visas like the e-visa and visa on arrival. Then you can apply for any kind of visa at the embassy or at any Nigerian embassy. So aside from the application at the embassy, there's a new introduction in the Nigerian visa policy. It's a good one actually, but we do not yet know about the establishment of these bodies yet. They're called the visa application centers. They are available in some countries. Rundown of that will be attached in the article that we're going to post on the website. But there are some countries where visa application centers are available. So what do visa application centers do? They act as an intermediary between you, the person applying, and the Nigerian embassy. So when you submit your document to them, or probably if there's no high commission or consular in your country, and you have a visa application center, you apply to them, then they take your document and application to the embassy for the embassy to process it. And when it is processed, you return to the visa application center again to obtain your visa from there before you travel. So those are the four main channels how you can get your visa. So that's visa on arrival, e-visa, application at the embassy, and visa application center. So what are the categories of visas? I've been going on and on about them. So that's short visit visas, temporary residence visas, and the permanent residence visas. The 79 classes are provided. They are sub-categorized under these three bodies. So whatever kind of visa it is that you are applying for, it is if it belongs to the general class of either a short visit visa, a temporary residence visa, or a permanent residence visa. So aside from these three types of visas, the Nigerian Visa Policy 2020 actually goes on. It goes further to provide that there are some countries that are exempted from applying for visas. The first one is any country that belongs to ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. These will be countries like Benin Republic, Togo, Niger, Cote d'Ivoire, and countries surrounding Nigeria, countries that are member countries of ECOWAS. So those countries are exempted from using visas to get into Nigeria. So only their international passports are going to be valid. Then visa abolition agreement countries. I think there are only two here: Cuba and I think Senegal. I can't remember, but I know Cuba is there. So these countries have an agreement that they've abolished the use of application of visas with Nigeria. So aside from that, we have the visa waiver for international organizations like the African Union now. They have an exemption. So anybody that is coming in from an African Union country can apply on arrival. It's not the visa before you travel. The reciprocity visa waiver agreement. It's a form of lien for investment. Basically, it keeps Nigeria open to trade opportunities and fosters our relationship with countries that have an agreement with Nigeria. I think China is signed up onto this type of visa exemption rather. So that's what the visa policy seeks to achieve. It tries to foster national development by enhancing trade, facilitating trade and other relationships with countries, because we know that every country has their own visa policy, but Nigeria's economy is not yet on both feet yet. So we are trying to keep everything on all fours and ensure that we have better trade and trade agreements and foster that. So under the short visit visas, the type of visas that are available here are diplomatic visa, transit without visa, transit visa, business visa. This is subdivided into three categories: tourism visa, visiting visa, journalism visa, then medical journalism visa, cleric visa. Those are just some of the ones that I can list for now. Then for temporary permit visas, temporary residency visas, we have the expatriate visa, expatriate in free zone visa, expatriate from international non-governmental organizations, then employment expatriate government official. So I would see if I can touch on some of these later on. Then usually these visas that are under the temporary resident visa and permanent resident visas, they will usually provide for situations where that visa can actually cover for the spouse of the person and the dependent. The spouse would generally need a letter from the principal immigrant. That's from the main person that is applying. And aside from that, you're going to apply normally. So, but the visa of the principal immigrant will cover for them. Then dependents are generally subdivided into three. There are minor dependents. These are people that are under 18 years of age. These ones are the middle. Dependents between the ages of 18 and 64 years old. And the last is dependents that are above 65 years old. So the visa policy allows this set of people to use the visa of the principal immigrant to actually get into Nigeria too. So that's what the policy seeks to achieve, like an ease of accessibility feature or function for people to come into Nigeria. So one of the biggest and most, in fact, I actually love this provision because generally under the Nigerian Immigration Service, under the Immigration Act, there is a section that provides for investors visa, but it doesn't go on to actually specify who an investor is, what kind of visa applies to them, or how they apply for this kind of visa. But the Nigerian visa policy has gone on to actually provide like a threshold and give better explanation on who is going to qualify for an investment visa. Investment visas are usually valid for 5 years. Short visas do not exceed 3 months. Temporary residence visas are between 1 month and 2 years. Then permanent residence visas are 2 years and above. But the investor visa is put at 5 years and it can actually be renewed. So the classes that the Nigerian visa policy seeks to provide for our life them now. So the first one is small scale enterprise. For you to actually qualify as a small scale enterprise under the new Nigerian visa policy, you need to have evidence of between $250,000 US to $500,000 US as importation and retention of investors' capital. So you need to have invested between the sums of $250,000 to $500,000 US for you to qualify as a small scale enterprise in Nigeria. So when you do that, you can actually apply for an investor visa. But for all these classes that I'm going to mention, what you will actually need evidence of capital importation. There's a certificate of capital importation. We'll talk about that subsequently or some other time if time doesn't permit us today. Apart from the small scale enterprise, then there's the medium scale enterprise. This is between the threshold of $500,000 US and $1 million US. Then there are large scale corporations between $1 million and $10 million. Then there are ultra large scale. These are above $10,000 US. Then for the oil and gas sector or oil and gas energy sector, the threshold is fixed at $100 million US for a minimum. So basically, we know that if you are investing more than $250,000 US in Nigeria's economy and you have a certificate of capital importation for that, you can actually apply for an investor's visa. Except you are investing in the oil and gas sector, which has the minimum of $100 million US. So for those that have plans to come and do business in Nigeria, first thing you should do is try to figure out under what class of visa it is that you apply to, or your eligibility under the classes of the visas. So once you figure that out, you can talk to an expert within the Nigerian boundaries that can give you better insight on the right type of visa to apply for. So after that, you can do it yourself, but after that, you can apply and get your visa and gain access into Nigeria. Nigeria currently is, our ease of doing business is, we've gone up in the rankings, the World Bank rankings for the year 2019, and so far it's been actually really good. So for you to get any visa, talk to an expert, find your threshold, whether you're an expatriate that is planning to work, or you are a Nigerian that renounced your visa, or just a short visit visa, always talk to an expert. I'll be bringing the session to a close. Probably some other time go in depth and talk more about the various classes of visas, and actually talk about the requirements for each and every one of them. And aside from the requirements, we actually talk about how to apply to and those that are eligible for those classes of visas. So I'll be bringing the session to a close at this point, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Same time, actually. I'll really need to go back. Thank you.